Hello and welcome to News and React.
News and react.
So, we're going to talk about the SONA. The SONA happened about 2 weeks ago, and I was trying to give it some time to marinate, just go down, and it's not going down. So, we're going to do a SONA review, and I'm just going to talk about a few of the things that stood out for me in the SONA. Can I just say, first of all, that I see you, Mr. President, okay? I see how he always tries to shy away from acknowledging the fact that we have an epidemic of illegal immigrants. And he always tries to, anytime he addresses the people, he's always like, the people in South Africa. And it's like, yeah, okay. Okay. I mean, I get what he's saying, but also, no, okay. We do not address the people in South Africa. We address the people of South Africa. And I feel like he's just notorious for brushing things to the side and failing to acknowledge some of the pressing issues in the country. And it is one of the pressing issues that we have that he's failed to address multiple times. We keep expecting him to address the fact that we have so many people from so many other countries that sneak into the country and no one even knows how they ended up getting here. But he always fails to acknowledge that that is a very tricky thing that we're dealing with. And I feel it. I'm telling you, I see it every time he's like, the people in South Africa. I'm like, mm-mm, I see what he's doing, but it's fine. And then he, at some point, went on to say, we have changed the lives of so many South Africans and created so many opportunities for millions of people that they otherwise would not have had. Okay, to an extent, first of all. And secondly, yeah, that's what you're supposed to do. That's what the government does, is to protect the people and help enhance the lives of the people. I mean, we're not going to give him a pat on the back for what he's supposed to be doing anyway. And he said it like he just expects you to give him a round of applause for that. No, sir. That's what you're supposed to do as the president. That's what you're supposed to do as the government, is help enhance the lives of your people and create opportunities that help better their lives. He mentioned a whole list of things that, South Africans have overcome, I guess is what he was trying to say, because he was like, South Africa is so determined and persistent. And then he went on to just give a whole list of things that South Africans have overcome and have had to deal with. And, he mentioned the Russo Ukraine war and how it has caused such an economic disrupt in South Africa. And he was talking about that. But did he ever answer the question of why? No, no. People have asked time and time again, why? Why has the Russian Ukraine war affected the South African economy in particular so much when it's not even a war that has anything to do with South Africa? And the president has never been able to answer that question. No one in parliament, in government, has ever been able to provide people with answers towards that question. I think this would have been the perfect platform to do that once and for all. And he didn't. Of course not. He failed to. He just talked about how it has just affected the economy so much and caused a rapid rate of inflation. But did he ever go into the nook and cranny and all the details that we've been looking for? Mm-mm. And I mean, would we expect anything more from him? Of course, he's going to shy away from talking about the pressing things in the country. It's what he's known for, it's his thing, it's what he's notorious for. The president and the government are incredibly notorious for shying away and failing to address the pressing things in the country. And this is just one of them. My favorite part was when he talked about state capture because the crowd went ballistic. Okay, everyone was just like, oh, and it was fine. Okay, it was just fine. That's how you deal with people who do these types of things. But he went on to talk about state capture and how it went on for a decade. But what got people was when he said so many public servants came together to fight state capture and everything is just so great. But I mean, first of all, okay, when? And if there's so many great public servants who fought against state capture, and he made it seem like they fought and they conquered. But if that's the case, why, first of all, why did the state capture go on for as long as it did? It went on for a whole decade. Okay. And then two, Why are we still feeling the effects of state capture? If it was something that so many great public servants fought against and conquered, why are the effects of it still alive today to such a high extent? Because they are still heavily, heavily felt. Why? If they did such a great job at fighting it. Then he just talked about the pandemic. We all know about that. Talked about how many people lost their jobs, how many people lost their lives. Yeah, we get that. The pandemic was a whole thing. So, and then he went on to talk about gender-based violence and femicide. We already know that it's been categorized as like the second pandemic in South Africa. Gender-based violence and femicide, and he spoke about how the government has implemented laws and all these things to ensure that the perpetrators are properly prosecuted. And that's great. That's great. But also, looking at it statistically, has it worked thus far? Because I just don't think they've done enough. Because the number, in comparison, the number of people who have cried for help and have not received any help is much higher than the number of people that have actually gotten help and the perpetrators have been convicted and the victims have been rendered some kind of help. In comparison, the numbers just they don't add up. So if they've done all these amazing things and put all these amazing things in place, then why are the numbers still not really making sense? People's dockets are missing. People open up cases on account of gender based violence. Their dockets go missing. Things happen to those people. They start fearing for their lives because now whoever the perpetrator is has now learned that the person went to the police. So dockets are going missing. People aren't getting help. Victims are not being helped in any kind of way. There are more victims that have asked for help that have not received help than those that have. And then he went on to talk about my favorite topic. It's my favorite because I just do not understand it. I will never understand it. Climate change. So he went on to talk about the effects of climate change in the country. So he went on to list things like, the heat waves that are happening in the Northern Cape, the floods in KwaZulu Natal, the wildfires in the Western Cape, drought in the Eastern Cape, and intense storms in Gauteng and the Northwest. So, yeah, that I was just giving you, the little, because I don't understand climate change. I never will. I really don't think I want to. I don't want to. And then he went on to talk about something that just gained so much traction on social media. It's everywhere. It's on TikTok, everywhere. He talked about the child of democracy. I'm not gonna say the name because I butcher it. I've tried to say it out loud. Cha, you're gonna hate me if I do that. So yeah, but it's the child of democracy is what he talked about. And so he was talking about, this child that was born post democracy, born in a democratic country, and all these things that this child now has and has been afforded that people pre 1994 did not really have. So he talked about, this child now having access to electricity freely available. Okay. This child now having running water. Okay. All things that all South Africans are crying about, and that's what he's going to choose to say about it. We have moments in time in this country where we do not have electricity. We have moments in times in this country, many, many times, where we don't have running water. So to sit there and say these things and talk about them so casually, like they're this great achievement, when majority of people in the country have to go sometimes days without those things, is a little odd to me. Now we're saying the things that he said were a lie. No, they're very much true. They're very correct, but they're just incredibly exaggerated. And that's the thing. That is always my point with the president of South Africa and the government in South Africa is they just do a good job at exaggerating everything, every single thing. The nerve to sit there and talk about people having running water always available when so many people cry all the time that they don't have running water. We have moments in time in this country where our fundamental rights are not met. So, what did he mean? Well, what is he talking about? But again, it takes me back to my point earlier that he knows he's so good at shying away and brushing off things that are pressing issues in the country. The very things that the people in the country complain about or have issues with and constantly have to deal with are the very things that he exaggerates or tries to like not talk about. And this is just another example of that. Then he went on to talk about free education. Now this part I like. This is probably the only part of the SONA that I liked and actually agreed with. But he went on to talk about free education and how, pre 1994, people didn't really have access to free education. But now the government has been able to provide free education for so many children in the country. Government owned primary schools, government owned secondary schools that children are able to go to and not even have to pay a cent, don't have to pay for school fees or anything of that sort. So that right there is very remarkable. And then he went on to talk also about the feeding schemes in these schools that have been able to feed millions of children that come from disadvantaged families, disadvantaged backgrounds. So that's great. That right there is definitely something that the government is doing very, very well. And then he talked about child support grants. Nothing special there, nothing new that he added or anything. So that's fine. And then he talked about this one had my blood boiling. I was, you know, because the nerve, the nerve to talk about I gotta look it up, the National Student Financial Aid Scheme, the NSFAS, the nerve that this little here president has to talk about NSFAS like he's not the very same person that a few weeks prior was basically threatening the youth, saying that if people don't vote for the ANC, then they're going to completely shut down NSFAS. And, obviously, then a lot of people will not be able to get access to higher education because they just can't afford it personally. So they rely on things like NSFAS to be able to help them in that department, and the nerve to just stand there and talk about it so casually. Again, this would have been the perfect time, the perfect platform to address what he said, that he would shut it off completely if people did not vote for the ANC and if the ANC did not win the 2024 elections. But no, he was just very casual about it. Oh, the NSFS has helped so many children, and that's great. That is very true. But also, talk about how you threatened those very children and told them that if they do not vote for the ANC and if the ANC does not win, then you are going to completely shut down NSFAS, the very thing that so many people in the country rely on. Again, brushing things to the side, the pressing things that he needs to address and talk about are the very things that he brushes off or just fails to acknowledge altogether. And then he talked about the BEE and how good it is for when you enter the workforce and setting you up to thrive as a Black person. Many people can't even enter the workforce to begin with. So, okay, I could go on for days about the BEE, but it's fine. And then he spoke about unemployment. And again, brushing it off. Just brushing it off. Oh, it's something that happens in every country. Every country in the world has some unemployed people. Okay, first of all, he's not the president of every country in the world. You don't come here and talk to us about every other country in the world. You come as the president of South Africa and address South Africans about the issues that are happening in South Africa. And unemployment is probably the biggest issue in South Africa. And in addressing your South African people, you shouldn't be brushing it off like just something that just casually happens everywhere else in the world. It's fine, we get that. But still, there's an incredibly high unemployment rate in South Africa. As the president addressing the nation, what he should have done was come and tell people what he plans on doing or what the government plans on doing moving forward to try to get that statistic down and help people find employment. But no. But again, the most important issue in the country, just brushed it off. Brushed it off like it's some casual thing, not that important to even talk about. Like, no. You address the people of South Africa and you speak to them about the incredibly high unemployment rate, and then you talk about what the government plans on doing to help bring the number down and ensure that more people get employment. You don't just brush it off and talk about how it happens everywhere else in the world. We're not talking about everywhere else in the world. We're talking about the most pressing issue in this here country. And as the president, you ought to be addressing that and coming up with solutions for the people. And then, in an attempt to redeem himself from that, He spoke about the presidential employment stimulus. I think that's how you call it. And he talked about all the millions of jobs that they've created or work opportunities that they've created, including the student assistants or education assistants there. But those people who've gotten jobs at schools to help the teachers with some of the workload and help the learners with the things that they need help with. So yeah, that's great, but still, it doesn't help us forget the fact that he just brushed off the incredibly high unemployment rate in this country. Well, that's it. That's all I'm going to touch on because after that, it just went on to be a whole thing where he was just gaslighting us about apartheid, telling us about apartheid and all of this that happened and all of that happened. There was a whole clip actually that I saw on TikTok, and they were counting down the number of times that he spoke about apartheid, and it was just ridiculous. So I'm not going to get into that because pretty much the rest of the sauna was just him gaslighting us about black people and a lack of opportunities for black people and apartheid all the time. So yeah, that right there was everything that stood out for me in particular at the sauna. So yeah, thank you so much for watching. Please do not forget to subscribe. Give the video a thumbs up, like it if you did like it, and leave a comment down below. I like to chit chat, guys. I really do. So chit chat with me. Let me know what you thought about the sauna. Did you like it? Did you enjoy it? Were there things that were actually spoken of that you wanted there to be spoken of? Or do you agree that this guy just basically brushed off quite a lot of things and made them seem like they're not as important or as pressing as they really are? So yeah, let me know. Let me know what you thought about the sauna, what stood out for you, and that's it. Thank you so much for watching, and we'll see you next time.